What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line on the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back today with another episode of the Razor Crest from the Mandalorian. Oh, buddy, I'm actually really looking forward once again to building this model, as I said last time. And now that I've had a chance to really think about it, do some test fitting, and kind of see how all of this is going to work, I'm really glad that I took the time to stop and actually do this work properly. So, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing basically the first part of the inside beyond the bathroom, which is right here, and Mando's bed. There's a little bit of work that still needs to be done, and we'll be kind of cleaning everything up before the first assembly here in just a little bit. But today we're going to be assembling the archways that are here, and then we're going to be assembling the gun cabinet, which is right there. And we're going to be getting this painted, getting the floor painted, which is where we're going to be starting today. And then we're going to basically be completing all the way up into about this point for the interior point of the interior portion of the cargo bay, which is a big, pretty significant portion. Like I'd say a good 40% maybe of the cargo bay will be completed at that point, which is a good thing because then we can really start moving on to the really fun part of the build, which is kind of building all the cargo stuff, assembling all of the little dudes in the carbonite, all of that stuff. So I've had some thoughts about lighting as well. And in looking at the resin parts, we're definitely going to be approaching the lighting a little bit differently, not going for accurate lighting to the model, but actually lighting that's going to be able to highlight what you can see inside. I thought about, now if I'm going to see if I can get this close in here, so we can get to the focus, it's about that point, it'll focus right about here. So right there on each side, these are lamps. I also happened to break this piece as I was removing it from its base, and I went ahead and got it glued back together. So everything's good. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh man, you literally broke a resin piece and you don't want to do that. But thankfully, you're just able to super glue it back together. But with these sconces, I thought about taking some fiber optic and running a light through there and having it glow. But it's really not going to do anything to actually be able to help you see the inside of the model. And that's kind of the thing. Like when I was kind of looking at it, and you can see it right now, it's great. But when you see it, my original idea was to be able to take the top off, look down inside, but that's not how this mod works. We have this part, which is the ceiling, fits over the top here, and so the only ways you're going to be able to see into the model are going to be down through the rear ramp and then through the side. And so what my thought for the lighting is I'm going to do a light in each one of the sections. So we have the forward section right here. So I'm going to have two LEDs, two red LEDs done to fiber optics that are going to go through right these little ports here. And these are just the forward fiber optic light, or the forward red lights that you see on the front of the Razor Crest. I'm going to have those run down and they're going to run up to the controller. And then two smaller, maybe 1 millimeter fiber optic lights pointing down in each one of these, into the bathroom and into his bedroom, and then have a light going into this first section that we're creating, a light going into the next section, like probably one SMD right about here, a bright white SMD, so that we can actually see what's going on inside, and then one smaller SMD, or just a regular, well, not smaller, an SMD, pointing this way so that you can kind of look in, so that when we look into the ship, you'll actually be able to see everything on the inside. And that's what I'm hoping for, at least. And that's the idea for the lighting. And so today, what we're going to be doing is we're basically going to start with getting our floor painted correctly. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and get all of our internal pieces painted. And then I'm going to try to do my best to get all the little controls that are on here painted, blue and red and green and all of those things. I'm going to do my best. If not, then I'll go ahead and probably just dry brush silver if that's the way it goes. I'm going to be painting these in a gunmetal. So we're going to go ahead and paint all of those. We're going to assemble the gun cabinet and all of the little weapons. And then we are going to go ahead and put all our pieces all together and really start to look to see where all of this is going to go. So let's go ahead and get building, shall we? All right, so we start with something that I need to do a little bit more often with my models, and that's test fitting. It is a thing that I really, really, really need to pay attention to, and one that I'm definitely focusing on this model for whatever reason, and I can't explain it, but I just thought about it. I'm like, you really need to start dry fitting, test fitting things, and you know, if I had done that before some sanding. That's all I got to say. I'm learning a lot. I'm still very much early on in the learning process for building models, and sometimes I get lucky, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes it's through just common skills of different things, and different things that I've learned over the years. But getting into test fitting is an important thing. And if I had done so in the beginning, specifically when sanding my parts, right there where my left hand is on your right side, there's a bit of a gap in between. And so, as we start to glue this, I saw that and I'm like, oh boy. But thankfully, it's going to be a spot where we can't see it and we'll be able to seal it up just fine. Now, here's just a reminder to always use super glue, or CA as we call it, to bond your resin parts. If you use a Tamiya, cellulose type of uh, a cellulose glue, any sort of melting glue, it will do terrible things to resin. So make sure you're paying attention for that, because you don't want to be using the wrong glue for this application. So once again, make sure you use CA. Now you can see up there at the top, there was a bit of a gap. Once again, we'll see that a couple of times as we go. You see it on the right there. This part went together really, really well. A very cool piece, by the way. But yeah, once again, like test fitting beforehand, test fitting during the sanding, test fitting, just test fitting, test fitting. That's the thing that I'm really focusing on here, and I'm going to be focusing on that with all the rest of the models. Now, this is a fairly simple first little bit. You can see here how this kind of sits in right over the top of the photo etch floor. And, it's a very, like, I don't know why I was so daunted by all of this, to be honest. It's detailed and difficult to work with, but as you can see there, just kind of gives the model a much higher level of depth to the model, and I can't wait for this whole thing, as an aside, to be done, because when it's all assembled, this thing is going to look amazing. So test fitting that middle part was great. There are two other parts to this model that we're going to be assembling. This next part is going to be right here. We're going to be taking this photo etch ladder, and we're going to be attaching it to the piece just underneath or just below the resin entryway that we just created. I did take a look at the reference art for the book of, or not the book, but the Mandalorian. I have the art of the Mandalorian book, and they got all of this so incredibly right. I'm kind of blown away. It looks so good in comparison. And Photoetch and I don't really get along. I'm really trying. I wound up having a difficult time with the Photoetch in the gun cabinet. I will talk about that here at the very end, but Photoetch and I don't really get along because I got big Lincoln log fingers, and those are incredibly tiny little Photoetch pieces. Yeah, mess. But when we put this piece together here, and as you can see on the test fit, when it's together, it looks just amazing. And I'm really like, this is the moment where I'm just like, yeah, this is super cool. And I know it's such a simple piece, but this looks so good when it's assembled. So we're going to go ahead and get on to the next part, which is going to be doing a little bit of painting. So I chose to paint all of the internal components. So like what would actually be this resin entryway would actually be the part of the actual build of the ship. And so what I chose to do is use the dark iron, which is, I believe, let's take a look here just to make sure. The dark iron is XF84 from Tamiya. And this was a great color to use as a base. I wound up taking some weathering, uh, the Tamiya Weathering Kit, and basically putting a titanium like powder over the top of it to create a metal look. And using the dark iron was a fantastic choice, and we'll continue to use that technique throughout the rest of this model. Um, Basically, the choice that I'm going to make is use the dark iron with, like as said, with the titanium overlay for all of those parts, and then the various different cabinets and cupboards and all of those things. We will be basically choosing to paint them individually, but with the wall that had the ladder that we're going to be attaching, that was painted the same color, and then here for the gun cabinet, we are painting this gunmetal, if you'd believe that, which is going to be the X10 from Tamiya. And yeah, we're going to be just kind of choosing what cabinet colors. We're going to be using all sorts of different cargo stuff, and we're going to have all sorts of different color of cabinets and crates and all of that. So, but we're going to stick true to the colors that we use for all of our basic pieces. And once again, that's going to be the dark iron with the Tamiya titanium weathering kit over the top. Now, the gun cabinet, I guess I'll talk about it now a little bit. And I said it before, Photoetch and I just do not get along. There are just these incredibly tiny little Photoetch weapons that we have to fold and glue together, and I just made an absolute mess of it. It was a travesty. It was a travesty of all time. So I still have some. We'll see if we use them, but I didn't wind up. Wind up using them. We'll talk about that at the very end. Now for the ladder there, I wanted to go ahead, and before we go on to these tiny little pieces, which we're going to paint silver, the ladder I decided to go ahead and put the gunmetal down as the base. And of course, with all my photo etch, I've gone through and use a primer over the top of them beforehand. But I wanted to go ahead and use the dark iron as the base, or the gunmetal as the base, before we put the silver on, just to help pop. Now these pieces are like little handrails that attach to the entryway piece that we created, and these are by far the smallest pieces of resin that I've used, and for some reason I didn't wind up ruining anything. I can't jinx it now either because it's too late for that. So here we use the aluminum. I think it's going to be the flat aluminum, I believe. So that is correct. That's going to be the XF16, the flat aluminum. And I use that as the color for our handrails here that attach to our resin entryway piece. And like I said, I can't mess this up now, but I was super worried that this wasn't going to turn out well. And by far, probably some of the best work that I did. It was crazy. It was just on these tiny little pieces, and I say that because once again I was incredibly terrified that I was going to screw that up. And then finally, we just come over the top of our ladder with some of our aluminum. All right, so we're going to be painting the photo etched floor, and I'm just going to be doing this in NATO black. And I had ideas here. I don't know what I was thinking. Thankfully, I have an Iwata Eclipse as my main airbrush, and the detail and pinpoint precision that you're able to get with this allowed for me to not really mask anything off. Now, what I did do is completely cover up the bathroom and bedroom area, as you can see there to the left, with a piece of paper so I didn't get any overspray there. But because of the precise nature of the Iwata Eclipse, I was able to get into the corners very, very carefully and get the paint down. Like, I love this Iwata Eclipse. Iwata. Guado. This Iwata Eclipse. This is a fantastic, fantastic airbrush. My days of using crappy airbrushes are gone and behind me. And man, I got to say that just the quality of work that it got down was beautiful. What I do regret, however, was not putting a clear coat on top of it before moving on. So that is something we are going to have to contend with and something that I will address in the next episode coming up. But as you can see here, it did turn out really, really well. Once again, I just want to have a dark floor, and I am going to be taking some of our weathering compound over the top, and basically just like getting it to look like some dark iron on the floor, and it turned out really, really well. The Iwata for the win. Gotta love that airbrush. Thanks, Todd. All right, so we're going to be assembling and installing our Photoetch cabinet and the what do you want to call it? Not the Photoetch cabinet, but the gun cabinet and the ladder with the Photoetch on it, or the Photoetch ladder. Wow, my words are tough today. That's tough. So first up, once that gets into focus, we are going to be taking our CA, and I just got 3 dots of glue here. I want to be able to remove this from the wall if I need to, in case I'm able to get those weapons, as I said, taken care of, so we can go ahead and put them in. But the beauty of the design of this piece is that you're able to close the doors or open the doors and they stay in place regardless of how you put them. And it was very fascinating how this whole thing worked there. But once that's installed, oh man, it just turned out so good. Like, it is such a nice looking piece. And I really enjoy seeing that there. It is super cool. It is super cool. Now, we are going to be taking our ladder, and this is going to be the ladder that goes up to the cockpit. So this is, anytime you see Mando going up and down, yeah, that turned out really good. Yeah. That's got the dark iron over it with a little bit of the Tamiya weathering compound with the titanium. And just like the other side, just in case I want to take it off, I'm just using a couple of dots of CA to get that applied. But yeah, these parts turned out really good. And this ladder is what you see Mando going up and down. Rest the Razor Crest. This is what we see Mando going up and down whenever he's on the Razor Crest. Now, these parts went in really, really well. I didn't have to do much to get them to fit well. It was remarkable, actually. As you can see here, they look really, really good, and everything flows together really, really well. And I'm kind of surprised that I got the same levels correct on the gun cabinet and the Photoetch that we have attached right above his bed there. I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, that turned out really good, didn't it? Okay, so now I am using the Tamiya Weathering Kit, and I am using the titanium here first to basically just rub on the metal effect. And what I was looking for was to create a dark iron sort of feel that you get inside the Razor Crest. For as shiny as the outside is, the inside is a little drab and dreary. And I wanted to be able to recreate that. So using the dark iron as the base and then going over the titanium, which is bright, but does have a kind of a darker sort of subtle tone to it. I could have used silver to brighten it up a little bit, which we do wind up doing later, but I wanted to have a bit of that undertone. I wanted to have a couple of layers of color on there to really give the impression that this is a dark iron that they used for the assembly of the Razor Crest. And it's what you see. It's what you see inside the ship. And I really do appreciate the effect. If you guys haven't seen it or looked at it, and if you all are all at all interested in the Mandalorian and how they developed and came up with the idea for a lot of the things, you should definitely get the Art of the Mandalorian Season 1. It is a very, very cool book. Now, you can see here very clearly what I'm doing. Now, I'm not using the applicator that Tamiya provides. Tamiya does great things, but their applicators are kind of trash. So I picked up off of Amazon a couple hundred of these little makeup applicators. You could also raid your girlfriend's makeup thing if you wanted to, if you're willing to risk that, or you can just go to Amazon for like $6 and you get a couple hundred of these, and they work fantastic. You can get multiple uses out of them, and they apply the weathering compound, which is basically just eyeshadow, by the way. Um, I, I wouldn't want to use this on my face, but it is eyeshadow for sure. And these are eyeshadow brushes. So yeah, definitely pick those up. It works wonders for getting your weathering compounds, whether it's a dry rub or what have you. Dry rub like in a brisket, but your dry pigments. There we go. This is a fantastic way of applying it to your model. As you can see there, it's starting to really look like real metal. And I got to be honest with you, I'm really surprised at how well that turned out. Because it's me. And it was one of those things where I had an idea and I executed it. And thankfully, I'm far enough along now that I kind of know a little bit what I'm doing. So that did turn out really well. We do wind up coming through here with a little bit of the silver. Now, what I wanted to do with the silver was just come through and just highlight the edges, as you can see there, kind of some rough edges right around the outside. Man, that turned out good. Oh, be afraid. Be very afraid. Not one piece was lost in the construction of this. Now, in the theme of, as we were talking about in the very beginning, this is very much a test fit first before we glue. I just want to make sure I know where I'm going to be putting them. I was super nervous about getting these two pieces attached, or these four actually attached. I didn't want to screw up the process. And so we have them going on, and it's very simply just getting them attached, getting them lined up, matching them on each side, making sure that everything sits exactly where it's supposed to. And this really does give just an amazing depth to the model. And I was really surprised at how well these four little pieces just add. I was really surprised at how much they added to the model. Um, but it's those details. It's that fine detail, right? Like that's why you get this Photoetch. That's why you get the resin pieces. That's why you go with green strawberry, because they got great stuff, but their Photoetch is difficult to work with. And as my friends over there, I've told them, I'm not going to be dishonest during the review of this part. And so yeah, I think these little pieces here for resin cast and very small and fiddly little pieces, man, they went in so incredibly well. And like I said, just added so much character to this entryway, as we will see here in just a moment. And man, I really do like the way this turned out. Well, it's me, and we're doing small detail work with my big Lincoln log fingers. Now, thankfully, some of the little what are the alligator clips that we have? They have some beautiful little points on there, and so I'm able to use this to apply my paint to the buttons. And it wound up working out perfectly. There were not many buttons that I wanted to choose. There was basically four little matching buttons on each side, and I wanted to just paint all four of them in different patterns. I didn't want to do anything like extravagant, didn't want to follow a pattern, didn't want to do anything. I just kind of wanted to put them in the dots in random spots. And let's see if we can get that focused up there. Yeah, you can kind of catch it. Once again, I need to figure out how to highlight that. But we started with red. then we went to green, and then we went to blue, I believe is what we did. And, 4 dots, I went 2 and 1, and then 1, and then, so on and so forth. And I alternated back and forth. And I just wanted to create the effect, of having different colors on different panels. I've thought about lighting this, but I have to be realistic with my abilities. And running fiber optic down there and trying to figure out how to do that would be just about impossible, and not something I'm actually going to try to do. For as stressful as this model has been, I don't want to add to the stress by basically just making it too difficult for myself. So as you can see here, we got some of the color on our buttons, and I'm trying to get it so you guys can see a little bit. Yeah, it's there. There is color there, and we'll see it a little bit towards the end when we do our review of the model. But there are the silver handles. Pretty cool. Okay, so now this was by far the easiest and hardest part of this whole process. I didn't allude to it very much in the very beginning, and I may have talked about it a little bit. It's been a couple minutes worth of voiceover at this point, and I've been just jabbering on. But there's a part right where my fingers are right now, actually. Each one of those legs are having a difficult time getting like cinched down all the way down to the floor. And I'm kind of realizing it right now, and I figure I can just throw glue at it. Now, I'm not sure what the issue is. Maybe I push down, there's a divot in the floor. I'm not quite sure when we'll talk about it at the end. I'm not sure what we are going to do about that process. But, as we say la vie, we're getting to gluing. And I am just very boldly just going. Oh, man, you're just going, aren't you? So funny is like when I was early on in my modeling career, which was less than a year ago, I was so afraid of gluing anything down. Now I'm just like, yeah, let's go. We're just gonna do it. I have debonder if I need it. We're good. So yeah, getting that rear part, I thought that I could go ahead and just kind of throw glue at it and see what happens. You can see I'm focusing extra special attention on that side, and it has some issues. It is going to take some work to get this part put into place properly, and it's going to make things a little challenging for our next episode in how we're going to approach this. I'm curious if I need to take a resin block piece and cut it off. I'm not quite sure, but that's going to be the only thing that we have to address from this one. And coming up, we're going to review, and I'm going to take my cell phone and get dug in so that you guys can actually see what I've done. All right, so gonna kind of try something a little different here because this model is actually a little difficult to see with my current camera setup, and so I'm gonna go ahead and bust out the phone that I haven't recorded with in forever. I use my regular cell phone, right here for everyday things, and then this is my older cell phone. It's an S20 Plus, and it works just great for recording videos, although I don't like the way it zooms. So, but anyway, off subject, but back to on subject. This model is really difficult to see because these parts are really, really small. And so I'm going to use this phone to kind of give you a in-depth look. So overall, these mods went really well. I, however, need to figure out what happened right here. I'm not sure what all of this mess is. Feels like C8, yeah, that's been a couple days since I built this. But this piece down in here has, focus up, lifted up a little bit and separated out from the wall there. So I'm going to go ahead before we get to the next episode and get that cleaned up and hooked up. It doesn't quite seem like it's flush right there, so I'll see what I can do about correcting that. If I have to take some resin wedges or whatever to get that taken care of, very easy. Once again, we're still in the building process, so we can make whatever modifications we can. So And what we've done here is created the gun cabinet. Um, Unfortunately, while trying to use the Photoetch, the green strawberry Photoetch is nice, but it is also extraordinarily thin. And so I wasn't successful in getting the Photoetch weapons, properly taken care of. And so we're just going to go ahead and leave the weapons cabinet closed. I do have a couple more, and I'm going to keep practicing with them. Maybe we might see them, but we'll see. I messed up a couple of them, so just kind of one of those things. And then we have our forward ladder there. There's a little bit of CA that I'm gonna have to contend with here. I'll probably just paint over the top of it. I got some things to learn. Gluing photo etch to resin. I need to make sure that I'm getting this right. But overall, this piece turned out really, really well. And the ladder did also turn out really, really well. And then for in here, let's see if we can get some light in there. Maybe you might be able to pick up some of the color that I have on the controls, but basically when you're entering the Razor Crest, you're going to look down to the right, and just to the right behind the wall there is going to be Mando's, or not Mando's, but Boba Fett's armor. And then, you kind of look up to the left, and that's where you go into his bedroom and what have you. But yeah, so that's what that looks like. Hopefully we can get that to focus up a little bit. So do some tricky, there you go. So you can kind of see in there, I need to do some cleaning up of the parts there. Some dust has definitely come through from the 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 weathering compound from the Tamiya. So, and I'm gonna need to put a little bit of putty up there, plastic putty or something along those lines to get that sealed up inside. But overall, this turned out really, really well. We still have a lot of work to do. So that's what we've got done so far. So that's what I got for you today. In the next episode, we're going to be coming back and we're going to continue to move on to getting all of our pieces put together and assembled back. And I think it's going to be a lot of just kind of off camera stuff that I'm going to have to do. It's going to be a lot of assembling cargo nets and assemblies and all of that. And I'll just kind of show one at the very end. So there's going to be a lot of work done in order to get up for the next part. But we've kind of passed the most difficult part of building the cargo bay. And soon, after we finish the rest of the cargo bay here, we're going to be going on to the cockpit, which is also going to take a little bit of time and a lot of details. So that's what I got for you today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, which I think is pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world, wherever you happen to be. And just remember, my friends, that this is the way.